Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our second meeting of the year for the Business and Entrepreneur Committee. We want to welcome everyone who has joined us live on Facebook. Cheryl will be checking our comments. So if you want to give a shout out and say who you are and what company you belong to, that will be great. And in the meantime, we're going to introduce those who have joined us by Zoom. So we want to start with, we have Ms. Shobi here.
Hi, my name is Shobi Raj, and I am with Legalshield.
Great. And what do you do at Legalshield?
We basically protect small business owners and individuals and families, give them access to attorneys, get their contracts reviewed, everything legal.
And I'll give a shout out. We use her services. It's great. Thank you. We have Shiran Pereira. I don't know if he's able to come on.
Yes, as I said, I'm Shiran Pereira from MS2 Engineering. So we do civil engineering and structural engineering, designs, consulting, and windstorm inspections for residential and commercial developments.
And where are y'all located?
Actually, my office is, these days I'm working from home, which is in Pearland, Shadow Creek area. So I also have a virtual office in Houston.
Okay. All righty. And we have Mark.
Hello again. Yeah, Mark McDonough here. I'm with Easy Loan Helper, commercial real estate, business lending, and debt restructuring. I'm in Houston, and we give business people money.
All right, awesome. And Miss Cheryl, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, my name is Cheryl Kepp. I'm the Senior Vice President at the Pearland Chamber of Commerce and the Staff Liaison for the Business and Entrepreneur Committee.
Give them access.
In Houston.
Awesome. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to introduce Mrs. Brienne. She's the co-chair for our Business and Entrepreneur Committee. So we're just going to chat a little bit before she takes over with her presentation. So Brienne, can you give us an introduction to who you are, what company you represent, and kind of how you got into this field?
Sure, I sure will. And I actually, during my presentation, I have a little bit more about my personal life and my passion. But I am Brienne Salcedo. I am the proud owner of Action Coach Pearland. I'm also a resident in Pearland. My kids go to school here, so I'm blessed to have a business and reside here, and my kids attend the school here. So my son's at Barry Miller and my daughter is in pre-K. So a little bit about me. I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts. By way of the sun, I made it to Miami for college and decided that I never wanted to be in the cold again. I was in healthcare. I was practicing as a neuro-occupational therapist and specialized in geriatric spinal cord brain injury, and started traveling the country, recognized that everywhere I went, there was operational chaos. And so I became really intrigued with the business side of healthcare, not just as a practitioner, even though I was passionate about it, and decided that I really wanted to start investing in learning about business. Had several coaches, mentors, was part of huge peer advisory groups, and by my early 30s made it to run companies as a key executive in the healthcare field, and decided that I was gonna get an action coach. So I kept my other coaches, had an action coach for several years. I was able to almost practice what I preach. It's really interesting how I was on, now I've been on both sides of the desk as being coached, and so became very passionate about wanting to change people's lives. Most people go into business to use it as a tool for freedom of life, freedom of time, freedom of wealth, freedom of choices, and they really end up with a JOB. We call it just over broke. They end up self-employed and losing, unfortunately, a lot of things in the process, like time, energy, money, health. And so it's my mission in life, my legacy in life by the time I go on to the good Lord, for many people to say that they enjoy the ride of life because they were able to shift their mindset and shift their actions to success. And so we're here in Pearland. I am the firm owner of Action Coach Pearland and Action Coach Friendswood. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Action Coach in my presentation later.
Awesome. And just to introduce myself, I know we are streaming live on Facebook. So there's some out there, a lot of you I do know and some I don't. My name is Kiana James, and I'm the founder and owner and CEO of a senior care agency called Friendly Faces Senior Care. So what we do is we provide caregiving services for our dear precious seniors, whether they live at home or in facilities. We have been doing that since 2010. So I get the experience of being a small business owner, but I also attended the University of Houston, go Cougs, and I'm a proud graduate of the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, which is ranked for the second year in a row, #1 in the whole country. It's a very, very specialized program at the University of Houston that has really birthed a lot of entrepreneurs in the city and some who have left the city to pursue their entrepreneurial dreams. And so the entrepreneurship for me is something that I am extremely passionate about. And now knowing that the chamber is really focused on entrepreneurship and how we can have and help more entrepreneurs, I was very, very excited to see that. And so very excited to be the vice president of this committee, this business and entrepreneur committee. I do also serve on the board, the Pearland board, chamber board, and also the executive board with the chamber. So we're very, very excited to do a lot of things. I invited Brienne to be my co-chair for this when I saw that she was with Action Coach. And I first got introduced to Action Coach through the Pearland Chamber of Commerce when I first joined many years ago. And I had never heard of Action Coach, didn't know what it was, but there was a presenter that was presenting about Action Coach, and it was just like amazing. I loved all the things they were saying. I looked into all the books and bought up a whole bunch of the books from the founder of Action Coach. So when I saw that Brienne had joined and kind of taken over the Pearland location, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, you've got to join us on what we're doing here, because we really, really want her expertise. And so as far as for this committee and what we want to do this year, we really, really are concerned about our business owners. We're concerned about our business owners in the Pearland community and throughout the country. So we know we might have some people that are actually tuning in outside of our Pearland community. So we don't want to forget about you also. This has been a tough time. COVID-19 was something that nobody saw coming. Maybe some higher scientific people, who knows, but I didn't see it. And most people within our country did not see this coming. And so I think with any type of disaster or anything that happens like that, there are always takeaways and there are always things that we can do moving forward to prepare for something like this and to really better ourselves. And that's really going to be the focus of this. How do we bounce back? How do we bounce forward? So how do we recover? Because there are businesses that will not recover, just quite honestly. There are many businesses, they will not recover. There are businesses that are struggling to recover. And there are businesses, new businesses that came about from this disaster. As what happens in any type of emergency or disaster, there will be emerging businesses because of the need. And then there are businesses that are actually thriving, not necessarily because of the disaster, but because of the needs that presented itself because of the disaster. So there's a little bit of everything going on. If you are a business owner and you're in an industry where it's really hard because of this disaster, and you feel like you might have to close your doors, that might be your reality. But does that mean you just have to shut down completely? Or is there another avenue you can get into? So those are different things that we can talk about. But throughout the course of this year, we're really concerned about our business owners, and we want to make sure through the Pearland Chamber of Commerce that we are there to support them. And so before we start, Brienne, were there any comments that you wanted to comment as co-chair of this committee that you see for this group for this year?
I would love to. Thank you, Kiana. And that I love that you're driving this thing. And from our first conversation, your passion is contagious. Your passion for, I'd say, starting with seniors. So like, I come from a geriatric background. So as soon as you started talking about seniors and your passion and just serving people and serving your community, the chamber is blessed to have someone like you that cares so much and is such a driver. So I am beyond blessed that you invited me. And so I'm grateful and thankful for the opportunity. And as I sit and think, what can my expertise and my drive and my passion bring to the group? I just wrote down a few words that when I think about this year and I think about business owners, small business owners, and how we can support them, some of the things that come to mind is education, is really knowledge is power, right? How can we make business owners more powerful? And then helping business owners plan and set goals. A lot of business owners just tend to start acting, especially when there's a economic downturn. They just, I need more, what am I going to do? And they don't have a plan or goals. The next thing is accountability, giving folks a place where they can be held accountable and support them. So being supportive, and to that I would say a non-judgmental zone. So whether you're thriving or you're challenged, there's no judgment here. It's just really a community serving and helping each other without judgment. The next thing that I would say is presenting our folks of Pearland and people that are listening from all over the world resources. So guiding with really great resources on how we can help and serve our community to achieve success. Those are the key things that come to my brain when I think about our drive for this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's very good to hear. Okay. And then Cheryl, if you would chime in, I know you're watching the feed. Before we start, are there any significant comments we need to mention or any questions before we get started?
No, we don't have any comments, but we would like to welcome Dr. Sheila Pope and Kira Sam and Helena Eek. All are joining us live, that they put in that they're involved on Facebook Live.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And again, we do want to encourage you to post your comments and your questions. We will have question and answers if anyone has any questions at the end of the presentation. So now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Brianne. I want to encourage you guys, it is 10, so it is still morning. So have your coffee, your donuts. I've got my hot tea here, and let's just sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation that Brianne is going to give us. And if you'll reiterate the title of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiana. And I would say coffee is a phenomenal idea, but I would say paper and a pen as we get rolling here. I'm going to give you tons of action items. And so having a paper and pen would be awesome. I'm going to share my screen here. Cheryl, if you can just let me know if the sharing worked well. Can you all see my shared screen?
You're good, Brianne.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So today's topic is the roadmap to recovery. Don't just bounce back from COVID-19, bounce forward. So we're really going to focus on proactive solutions and actions to get business driving to success now. Again, I'm Brianne Salcedo with Action Coach Pearland, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I am the proud owner, as I said before, and a certified business coach at Action Coach Pearland in Friendswood. I'm a female entrepreneur and I'm a legacy builder. I'm working on building my own legacy as well as others. Legacy is something that's really important to me. I always have family first. I have a phenomenal husband, Alex, and 2 children, Alexander Jr., who's 14, and Savannah, who's 5. And beyond family first, walking in faith is really, really first. So making sure that decisions that we make, I make independently and with my family, is walking in faith. And really my passion is making the world a happier place, and doing so through allowing business owners to enjoy the ride. A little bit about Action Coach. I told you earlier that Action Coach is a global organization where we utilize a 27-year proven system. So we have 3,500 tools that have been tested in multiple countries around the world. Most people think that business is industry specific, but really business is business is business is business. So being able to tackle business challenges around the globe is so phenomenal and keeps me excited to wake up every day. We're in over 80 countries, and our immediate focus is creating commercial profitable businesses that work without the owner, truly providing people these freedoms in life. I've been coaching corporations and business owners to crush their goals and create freedom of life and building up businesses, sometimes in a stagnant position or in a non-profitable position to over millions in profit every month. My kind of motto is gaining freedoms in life starts with action. And I would say priority of action. We'll learn a little bit about that today. So to start off, we're going to start with a roadmap for recovery. Don't just bounce back from COVID, we said bounce forward. Business owners, since last year, March of last year, when COVID first crept up on us, and it was a shock to everyone, they kept saying, how do I make my business resilient in this economic downturn? Or like we put in the title of our presentation or our workshop today is, how do I bounce back? As that's a great question. Knowing that we can all bounce back, or I would say most of us can bounce back at this point, we should modify that question that everyone is asking slightly. The question that I would say we should ask and we should talk about is, how do we thrive no matter what the economy is like? As we're preparing, hopefully on the end of COVID, let's pray and hope. We want to make sure that we're setting up businesses so they can thrive no matter what the economy or what the economic climate is like. Basically, what we were saying is that we want to become recession proof. It is true that some businesses thrive while others implode during economic crisis. Most people believe that all companies suffer through recession cycles, but the truth is some companies are recession proof. And it's not because they're bigger than other companies. It's not because they're better known or more reputable or they're more generously capitalized. The difference that separates successful enterprises from those that collapse is that they are constantly dynamic. They are ever moving. They have a healthier approach around the entire business cycle. Many people look at the present moment in front of them versus looking at the entire cycle of a business. So today we're going to explore the business cycle. Some of the key things that people, that business owners that are thriving look at is they plan for the future. They keep contingencies in place no matter what. It's easy to get rattled and change some of the contingencies in the company, but they keep them in place no matter what challenges arise. They sell products and services that may not go out of fashion as easily, and they focus on profits in an intelligent manner. That helps them grow in the economic environment. So today we're going to go through 10 different tips. And in these 10 different tips, we're going to have I'm going to provide everyone with action items around that tip that they can take on immediately. So our first, so I'm gonna back that up and say part of learning. So I love, they say if you give a man a fish, you give him dinner for the night, right? If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. More than just teaching someone to fish, I love to teach others how to learn. So learning to learn is really important. So I'm going to ask today, if you really want to learn how to recover and how to grow and how to be recession proof, that you take notes. And on your first paper of notes, that you write action items, just pure actions that you got out of today's presentation that you can prioritize when we're done today, so you can start making movement towards being a thriving business. Writing notes anywhere else, but action items, having a page of action items are really going to be of benefit to you. So let's get started with the 10 tips. Number one is planning ahead means getting ahead. Once a company starts losing its bearings and gets carried away in these some stormy economic tides, it is difficult to stay ashore. It is difficult to be safe when these conditions are adverse. And those that were barely making it before and already treading water, or basically just about to sink, or don't have a compass of where they're going, they get really confused. And to avoid those effects, we have to be prepared at all times. Simply put, having an emergency plan, Knowing how to use the compass of our business, what direction we're heading, and changing directions when needed is imperative. A great example of this is dissecting your company's numbers. You probably hear this over and over again, but knowing your numbers is one of the most important things to planning ahead to be able to be recession proof. Some of you could be saying, well, Brianne, it's too late. We're walking out of COVID. We were not prepared. 2 minutes too late. We didn't see it coming. We didn't perhaps plan ahead. But everything that we're speaking about today, if you have not done it, just start. Start somewhere. It will help you gain strength back. You'll be able to leverage everything that we're speaking about and build your company. I'm going to go ahead and give you actions pertaining to number 1, planning ahead. And if you can write these down. We're going to call this live time data. So actually knowing your financial position in live time is essential. Some of the financial indicators that you should know. Number 1 is what leads are walking into your business. How many leads are you getting on a daily basis? What's the number of conversion of those leads? What's your average dollar sale? And what's your number of transactions? Then knowing your margins and profits are essential. The second thing that you want live time data on is your cash position. Most people unfortunately make decisions off cash in the bank and not off of live data. So we never want to go off cash in the bank, but we want to know our cash position. Number 3 is knowing the performance of your team. Having scorecards for staff. We say what is measured monthly performs monthly, what's measured weekly performs weekly, what's measured daily performs daily. So how do you see what contributions your staff are bringing to the company on a daily basis? And the 4th one is understanding, knowing where to go to look at market trends for your products and services that you sell. So having that live time data, rather than simply shooting in the dark, if you utilize the proper tools to measure, you'll be able to notice trends immediately, and you'll be able to make proactive, accurate, precise decisions live. Okay, number 2, the critical difference between response and reaction. Many of us go through this professionally and personally. Emotions can heavily impact a business's decisions. As we spoke about last slide, numbers do not lie. Business lies in the math. So learning to respond with a level-headed and effective behavior is truly a skill. What happens when one's not prepared is that we make knee-jerk reactions to decisions, and we kind of get ourselves into a tornado or drive ourselves into a hole. The difference between response and reaction generally boils down to deliberate preparation, prior planning, and intention actions. I'm going to give you an example. Let's look at the fire department. When the fire department has a fire, do we think they're responding or they're reacting? They practice response all day, every day. My dad was a firefighter in Massachusetts, as well as all the men in the family, and they were constantly doing drills on what piece of clothing do you put on first? Who's driving the truck? Who's driving the water truck? Who's driving the ladder truck? Who slides down the pole first? Literally, their response has to be perfect in emergencies. Another example is, what about quarterbacks? Say a quarterback came from a college team, and he was phenomenal, knows the game, has the skill. The first day he gets on the pro field, probably a little clumsy, a little bit nervous. It's a new environment. So he has to practice learning how to respond in this new environment. Kind of just like we are as business owners. We have the skill, we've worked on the skill, we're bettering our skills, we know the name of the game a lot of times. But the interesting thing about response and reaction is that once you reach a certain level of training, you instinctively behave differently. You transition these reactionary things to responsibility or a great response. So here are the action items between response and reaction. So hopefully you're coachable today and you're writing down the actions. as I really think that these are really going to help you. So action items for number 2. Number 1, learn about response and reaction. If you want to be skilled at it, you want to be great at it, learn about it. What are you reading about it? What videos are you watching? So reading, listening, learning about response versus reaction. They say you want to have a happy life, be around happy people, watch happy videos. Don't watch the news probably. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but maybe not. But if you want to learn about certain things, you want to learn, if you want to become better at it, you want to learn about it. Number 2, when your heart rate starts to speed up, when something comes across your desk in business, stop and ask yourself, am I ready to respond? Give yourself time to make the decision to respond, and then ask yourself, what is my intention? Am I driving with intentionality behind whatever is making my heart race right now? And number 3 to that is have a trusted brain group. Not all decisions, not all things that come across you in business should be made with just your decision, because it's difficult to control those emotions sometimes, especially when we're tied to it emotionally, financially, in every respect. So a trusted brain group is a great group to call on to say, hey, this is changing in my organization. I would love to talk about it. And that way you're driving with intentional decision. Okay, number 3, let me pick my time here, 10:30. Okay, number 3, choose products and services with care and attention. So Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, says this perfectly. He explained it beautifully. He said, if I had lived during the era of the famous California gold rush, he would have done something. So right when I was learning about this, I'm like, would he have, hurried up and gone to get the gold? What would he have done? And his response was brilliant. It was so smart. As masses are driving to get the gold, he would have not joined the masses in search of the gold. Instead, he would have set up a roadside stand and sold tin pans. Interesting, because historical facts show that only a small percentage of people actually struck it rich with the gold. But 100% of them bought pans to sift through the mud in search of the gold. So those are the things that sell. The tools that the trade did not have, the tools that the trade needed did not have, you didn't have to worry, he wouldn't have had to worry about creating the market for it. The market was there. They simply and cleverly just identified the niche and they filled it. So like our screen says here is identify the niche or the niche and fill it. So action items around doing that is number 1, ask yourself and develop your niche. Number 2, when your market shifts, do you shift? We talked about the business owners that were successful in economic downturns were dynamic. So as the market is shifting, are you shifting? Are you the taxi or are you the Uber? And then lastly, we talked about your trusted brain group. Use your trusted brain group to have meetings solely around innovation and niche. I'm going to keep saying it different ways. So literally have a brain group around innovations. How am I going to continue to choose products and services with attention? If you do that, you're going to be heightened with intentionality, and you're going to pick quality, and you're going to be able to see the trend and make quality decisions. Number 4, indispensable businesses are recession proof. Just a quick story and a quick example, Johnny Appleseed. Most people think that Johnny Appleseed is a fictional character. The truth is that he was a real person. The story is based on a man named Johnny Chapman. Chapman was one of the first to actually choose the franchise model, business model. Myth had him that he was someone that just wanted to go around and plant apple trees everywhere, but actually he carefully created a business model that was absolutely recession proof. Back in those times, frontier settlers were in need of sugar. An affordable substitute was something sweet made from apples that we now know as fructose. Apple trees were few and far between, so Johnny planted orchards for settlers, and when they arrived, he sold them the young trees. He established these nurseries across the country to ensure demand of the product. His overhead was tiny because he would use the seed, it's kind of the franchise model. He would use the seeds of one tree and grow dozens more. He was able to duplicate it over and over again. Settlers saw that these trees were a good investment. At the time, they could use it to, for the fruit of the apple, for the fructose, and for money. And at that time, also there was specific laws around planting a minimum number of fruit trees. So Johnny actually captured that audience as well. He had a product that not only people wanted, but it was required by law. He hired people to manage the orchards all over the country. And when he sold that, he literally made what would equate to millions today. He went from being a very broke man to a very rich man. His business was indispensable and people sought him out. He didn't have to seek them out. This happened because he chose to have a phenomenal business model. Something that many people, when we go into business, we just think about the day-to-day. I can't say how often I see businesses just thinking about getting through today versus knowing your business model and what your exit looks like at the end. So your action items behind having an indispensable business to become recession proof is, number one, know your business model. Explore the different models, again, going back to learning. And what do I want my model to be like? Do I want a franchise model? Do I want multiple locations? Do I want to be citywide, statewide, nationwide, global? What kind of organization do you want to have? And then number two, know the final destination and your desired exit. So sometimes when we put the long-term goal first, then our road actually makes sense. It's like going on a road trip. If I went with 10 girlfriends and we jump in a bus and I tell the bus driver I want to go to Colorado, and then the next woman comes up and tells the bus driver, no, I want to go to Miami. And then the next person comes up and says New York. We're just going to be all over the map. If you don't know your long-term plan or your destination, you don't know your model, you're going to end up all over the map. So the 4 M's, number 5, adhere to these 4 M's. It is critical to profitability. So money, management, merchandise, and marketing. We're going to start off with management. Profitable companies are very well managed. This requires a blueprint for the organization. Do you actually have a plan that has employee and team training? So number one in management is to have a blueprint of what the team should be doing and how we're growing the team. Number two, how do you manage your database from contacts, leads, customers, and strategic partners? How is that being managed? A lot of companies that I begin coaching, we look at their database and it's either non-existent or it's not current and up to date. So it makes, we're not able to leverage that system to get communication to potential leads, potential customers, new customers, existing customers, partners. So cleaning up your database and managing that well is going to be a benefit. Especially what you don't want to be doing is when you notice an economic downturn, imagine trying to hurry up and go through your database. Who's my top customers? What strategic partners can I talk to? Who can I innovate with right now? If you have it clean and you're proactive, it's going to be a different world for you. Number 3, having a good budget and strong accounting practices. You don't know how many people I see that are really great at maybe perhaps what their industry is, but they're not bookkeepers or accountants, and they try to run their own financial shop. Not a great idea. So you want to make sure that you have great accounting practices and you outsource if you can, or if you need to. Number 4, this is an action item, is skillful use of time and resources. Having a keen focus on your resources, so that way when things start to shift, you can reallocate very easy. So you want a keen focus, so that way when you have to reallocate your time and your resources, like dollars, energy, money, team, you can do so. Great managers systemize routine procedures while humanizing the exception. So 80% of how your company is managed or running should be systematized. 20% should be decisions that have to be made from humans. So if your company is not systematized, it would be harder to deal with an economic downturn or the industry slow. I hear very often, I'm just preparing. This is when, this is my economic winter. This is when things get slow for me. I'm just going to take it as it is. I'm like, no, prepare for it. Prepare for it. Market differently. Become dynamic. Manage so that way you can shorten your economic winter. So again, those action items are look at the blueprint of your company, how you manage your database, how you look at your budgeting and accounting practices, and how you look at labor, time, and resources. Money. Money, 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 money. So strategies of dealing with money will make or break your profitability. It's more than just having a budget. So I have seen this as well, as a lot of companies have a great budget on paper, and then the budget is never adhered to. There's no auditing against the budget, and it kind of just sits in a file on the computer or in a shelf, kind of like a business plan that you make initially to get funding. So making sure that you're auditing, because you want that live data like we spoke about before. And the skill that you want to better with money is increasing your margins to fatten your profits. An example is keeping prices stagnant for years on end. Companies will automatically lose secondary to annual inflation. I recently had a client last year who had not raised his prices in 10 years. He was at, I think, about a 24% profit margin. We raised his prices by 6%. No one noticed because he still had great prices, great value, great products, great services. And he ended up closing the year during COVID of 2020 with a 54% profit margin, 30% increase because he raised his prices by 6%. So being proactive with raising your prices, focus on just a couple examples, focus on enhancing the customer orders or experience, and not discounting. Discounting is death. If you haven't heard it before, I'm going to tell you again, discounting is death. Instead, provide more value. If the value is there, people will pay for it. Okay, so actions around money. Budget, not just setting a budget, but auditing your budget. Increasing your skills on how to develop fattened profits, better margins, and then focus on your profits. There's multiple ways to do it. Just a couple of the examples that we gave is to make sure that you're increasing your prices according to inflation. Next is marketing. So let's quickly get through this. Marketing should be less about selling and more about buying. If you haven't heard that, it's a very interesting phrase. Less about selling, more about buying. Buying customers to be specific. If you have a customer-centric market, you should be able to get through the period of trial and error, spending all this dollars and then not getting return on your investment. If you do it correctly and you actually test and measure, you should get to certainty of success, that when you give this many dollars, you get this much return. So action items behind marketing. Number one, do you have a marketing plan in place? Your marketing plan should include at least these three things. How do you get new clients? How do you utilize the current clients that you already have, current and past? How do you get referrals? You should have an entire action plan around the current and past customers you have. Everyone gets so consumed with getting new, they forget the most valuable asset they have is the current or the past customer that was completely satisfied. And then number three is visibility and reputation. So do you have a marketing plan? Does that plan activate new, current, or retention of clients, repeat business, and then visibility and reputation? And lastly, do you measure the results of marketing? If not, you're going to keep spending and you're not going to be investing to where you're buying customers and you're not just trying to sell. Number four is merchandise. Taking a top-down or macro view of your merchandise can be a valuable exercise. Products and services literally define the business model. Just a quick example, but when printers first came out, companies were selling printers. They thought they were selling printers. What they quickly realized is that not many people wanted more than one printer. So they didn't have the repeat business. They quickly recognized that we're selling printers to actually sell ink. So they became more of an, if you look at printing companies, they're actually more of an ink. Their model has changed. They sell ink. They'll give away a printer just so they can have that reoccurring service of ink all the time. So they mark up the ink. They make ink have the best margins, and they're basically giving away printers because they want this lifetime customer. So the action items around merchandise. Number one, what do you sell and how do you sell it? Number two, what is the profit of each of those things that you're selling, whether it's a service or a product, and does it support your business model? The printer company recognized this is no longer our business model. We're switching our business model to make sure that we can remain as profitable as possible. Number 6, we're going to get into wallet share versus market share. I'm going to speed up a little bit because we're running out of time. A good way to say this is once a company has customers, they need to take full advantage of the opportunity that each customer represents. Most people think about a customer that comes in and purchases something. That's just a shopper. If someone comes and utilizes you for the first time, they're checking out your value, your pricing, your service, the quality. They're just shopping. To get them to come back over and over again, to get them to, like these little fingers on the screen, to get all these customers happy and speaking about you, you're creating lifetime value. So what you want to do for wallet share versus market share is that you want the customers you already have to have multiple transactions. They continuing opening up their wallet instead of always trying to chase the new. That's more expensive. You're going through cost of acquisition again. So go ahead and figure out how do you create lifetime customers that rave about you, that love you, and that they continue to shop with you and bring their friends and family. The action items around that is to figure out the lifetime value of a client. What's the average lifetime value of one client in your business? Figuring that out will be quite the surprise for you. Next is how do you get them to come back for the second visit? We don't want a bunch of shoppers. We want customers. We want raving fans. And number 3, just ask for referrals. What is your referral process? Okay, number 7, building upon success to grow profits in any cycle. Many business owners exhaust themselves during a change or an economic downtick. Typically, the resources that we have are money, time, energy, and team. But guess what happens when there's a shift in the economy? We typically go into crisis mode and all we can think about is sales, 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 sales now. How can I get more sales? So what we have to do is protect that, because spending our resources we end up with, we can try to sell, but if we're doing it chaotically, we're spending time, energy, money, and all these resources, and we end up with a significantly reduced profits. Because at the end of the day, profit is everything, especially when profits get pinched in a recession and the industry just slows down, has a slow period. So do not counteract a downturn by expending more wasteful energy. Instead, I'm going to give you some powerful action items to do. We want you to put your energy where it counts most. Number 1, like everything we've talked about today, analyze your data to make more strategic decisions. Number 2, focus on conversion. Every time someone comes to you, every time a lead comes to you, let's work on 100% conversion. Number 3, number of transactions. How do we get people coming back time and time again? Number 4, focus on your margins on each sale. Number 5, focus on your value. People are still spending money when times are tough. So if you pay close attention to value, you can run a great business. It has to be a goal-oriented business though. Number 8, cash is king in a recession. Just a quick example is companies that can afford to invest during the economic times when there's a pinch, have the most lucrative outcomes. An example is Nations Bank, now known as Bank of America. They actually bought the largest bank at a huge bargain in the 1980 recession. By doing that, they transformed from just being a typical regional bank to one of the biggest players in the US of A as far as a financial institution, because they had cash on hand. They were able to do this because of the cash. So as you prepare for this business cycle, if you analyze and create data and you have things systematized and you have cash in the bank and you're making constant decisions on how to modify your business and you're dynamic in it, profit will truly be your king. Profit should be your king at all times. Almost last, 9 is your business success is a reflection of your mindset. As much as we think about all these things that we learned today and the skills and the tactics and the strategies, it starts with a business owner or the business leader's mindset. So as you hear all of this, hear all of these things, you might have heard them before. And Brad Sugars talks about this often. And it's something that I really try to hold congruent to this as I preach it. I try to practice it, that these are just a lot of these things are common sense business practices, but we're not looking for more than common sense. What we're looking for is common practice. Can you remain consistent? Can you keep a healthy mind so that way when an economic downturn comes, you're already in a great position above the market? So having the right tools, having a plan to do so, and having accountability is surely going to help you. So number 10 is start now. I'm called an action coach for a reason. I'm not a hope coach. I'm not a dream coach, even though I love dreaming. But start by taking action. And what I want to do today is our commitment to Pearland. It's my hometown. It's where I reside. It's where we build our business, is to make sure that we serve at our greatest ability, to make sure that we have no business failure in Pearland or surrounding cities. We really focus on you matter, we care, no business left behind. So what I want to tell you today is every person that wants to start now, if you have those action items and you want to sharpen your mindset, Brad Sugars, our fierce leader, came out with a 30-day challenge. We're starting it on March 1st. What it is 30 days of 30 videos. I'm not charging for it. There's no obligation. I just want you to start with your mind. So the entire 30 days is called Life 30X Life, changing your mind to change your life. We're going to dissect it and rebuild it. If you want to start there, please, no obligation, just email us at adminpearland@actioncoach.com or message us on Facebook on our Action Coach Pearland site, and we'll add you to our portal for 30 days. You're not going to get more than 30 days, so you got to make sure you stay accountable to it. You'll have one video once a day for 30 days to shift your mind to success so you can be prepared to be recession proof. I would love to go through questions and answers.
That sounds great. And we're gonna, Cheryl, can you make sure we put that information, if you'll put it in the chat, Brienne, how they can access that free 30-day challenge? That's an awesome offer you guys are offering to everyone. We want to make sure we put it in the chat and on Facebook. So again, we're really concerned about our business owners. And so that is just a free tool that they're offering, again, to get more information to help your business to strive. So you definitely want to take advantage of any of that. I thought it was really nice, Brienne. I took down several nuggets and I'm going to have to rewatch this video as well because there were a few things that I missed that I wanted to write down. But I thought it was really nice, some of the things you said. I kind of mentioned some of them in the Facebook. I love when you said have a brain group around innovation. And then how you talked about see the trend and make quality decisions. I think that's so important because I always think of the example of like Blockbuster and Netflix and how Blockbuster just missed the mark. Like how many of us always went to Blockbuster and that was just a dying market and they had the opportunity to do what Netflix was doing and they passed it over. They didn't think it was relevant. But it was. And so that could have been something that had they really been focused on the trend and where things were going, that could have been their market. They already had a customer base. And so as business owners, it's very, very important that we see where the trends are, especially with modern day technology. Things are just speeding along, speeding ahead so fast that things that are relevant today are not tomorrow. And so
you can become irrelevant really quick.
Really quick. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to stay ahead, you got to stay educated. And I love that point about that brain group and around innovation. So I think that's something, a key takeaway from me.
I have a quick question. Cheryl said, I just noticed, Cheryl, that you said my screen wasn't advancing forward. So I'm going to pray. Did it advance forward the whole time or did it get stuck on one screen? Oh,
You're
sorry.
on mute. Oh,
I
there you
think we were good, Brianne.
Okay, I was thinking maybe I should share my presentation because that would have been awful for the audience.
Well, it was just like 8 slides. It was just the top slide of each section you talked about was all that advanced.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but maybe I can send something
I
out.
I have a question,
Yes,
Kiana,
sure.
with this whole group. I guess this is the second time. It's something new that we're doing at the chamber, which I'm really excited about because I love, entrepreneurships and helping other entrepreneurs. And what Brianne was like, this could be for hours. There's so much content in this stuff.
Definitely.
I couldn't even take notes fast enough, but it's, like you said, it's kind of common sense stuff, but we as small business owners, we don't practice all of this, and I really like the idea of this brain group suggestion. That was also something that resonated with me. And I think, Kiana, we had talked about this, maybe I'm not sure what the goal of this committee is, and I think that's a lot lacking when I talk to entrepreneurs. They're just trying to make sales and just doing the day-to-day, and they don't have any accountability,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we can create something like this, like subsets of having some mastermind groups, where we can create some accountability for each other and hold it accountable, Also, like, are we doing like a series of just picking one topic? I mean, just the first thing she was saying, planning ahead and getting, all those, there's so many things in there. Like, can you give us like an overview of what you guys are seeing from how you want this committee to go? And is it just going to be just education? You're going to have different speakers, or, and what's the goal?
That's great information. I'm going to address the first one. I know we're running out of time, but we might go over just a slab bit. As far as having like a brain group or a mastermind group, I wrote that down as a note. Masterminds are something that's very, very popular. Usually people charge a lot of money for them. We're here at the chamber. We're trying to give value to our members, but I think that's you got my mind kind of rolling there when you said that. So I think that's something we're going to look at. I think that's a great idea. And then as far as the goal of the committee, we really want, again, to focus on our business owners. Each month, we're going to have a speaker or a panel group, and it's going to be on a different business topic. We only have 12 months in a year, so we can't have too many topics. Like next month, we're going to focus on legality. So we're going to talk about some legal aspects, and we're going to have LaMonica Love, and I think we're going to have Mark Smith. We might have a few other from that legal spectrum that's going to join our group and talk about what are the legal things, because we know when a business is starting up, sometimes they really don't understand what things are important. But we need to talk about that from startup to, fully functioning to, okay, now I'm looking at possibly an exit plan, or possibly do I want to do merger or acquisition? So a little bit for everyone. But we're going to have various topics throughout the year. Some of the other goals of our committee is we want to do some collaboration. So in addition to the entrepreneur series, which is free information to the public, we also want to collaborate with some groups. So we're looking at talking with my alumni network, the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship. We're looking at setting up some meetings with them to see how we can collaborate with the University of Houston and their entrepreneurial program. And one of the things we really would love to do, we don't even know if it's possible, but it's just an idea at this point. We would love to see how we can bring entrepreneurship to the school, to the high school level. We know there are some people that go to college, there's some people that are not, but small businesses is really what makes America. And it's not a subject that's really taught at school. I know for me, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. I did not take any classes in high school, and it would have been very helpful. I had to wait until I got to college to get those classes. So how do we incorporate these skills of entrepreneurship early on, since there are this is what makes America small businesses. And I think these are very valuable skills that we can be teaching to our youth. So those are just some ideas that we have, and we definitely want to have more people to join us And if you have ideas, please submit them. You can submit them. How can they submit them, Cheryl? What's the email address for the chamber?
If you can just go ahead and forward them to me, cheryl.kep@pearlandtexaschamber.us. Texas is all spelled out. I'll put my email address in the Facebook chat as well, since it is a rather long email address.
That's what I was thinking. Please put that.
May I add something to that?
Yes, Brianne.
Really quick, Kiana. So Shelby, thank you so much for adding that. And I love how your brain works too, because I think education and knowledge is everything, but I think what you're seeking is actionable things as well, is what tools, what strategies can we get a little bit deeper. So kind of where my brain went, and just throwing my idea out there, is that how do we have a tools workshop? So perhaps, I mean, it's easy because we're virtual, right? But could we have myself or other coaches lead tools workshops where you're actually going and doing and coming up with a result versus just hearing it. So I love workshops because then people can leave with things in hand that they can activate, and they kind of got guidance on that. So just thinking about a tools workshop was something that came like, how do you create KPIs for every team member? How do you create a budget? How do you create a plan? And the second part was the peer advisory group, a solution-based group where peers are just coming up with topics and giving solutions. And I've been part of groups that have been very powerful in that. And how do we do that within the chamber? I think those are great ideas.
That sounds great. I wrote those down. So we'll definitely be collaborating offline to see about how we can get some of these things in place. We know, well, we don't know what the numbers are. They were dropping. The COVID numbers were dropping. They might go up a little bit. They might go down. We know a lot of people are getting vaccinated. So people
Ride
are
the
starting,
wave.
yeah, people are starting to go out. So sometime this spring, it is very possible that we can get together and do some of those workshops. Now, before we close, I do want to mention a couple of things. One, please tune in. Our meeting next week, not next week, next month will be on, I think it's the 26th. It's that last Friday at 10 a.m. Normally we have it the third Friday of each month. The next month, well, this month we had Snowbit, and next month we have spring break. So we're going to keep in mind, you know, a lot of parents might be off that week. So definitely tune in. We will be posting the flyer, but again, the topic is going to be a legal topic for business owners. And if you ever use a business attorney, you know that it's quite pricey. So if you can ever get legal advice and they're giving it out, you definitely want to tune in and pick up some of those nuggets. And we might even invite Shelby. We can talk to you after that, because we're going to have a panel discussion on all the different things. So we'd love to invite you on that panel as well. And then lastly, before we close, we do want to do some recommended reading. So each session, we want to recommend a book. We're not endorsed or sponsoring any book or, you know, anything like that. These are just recommended readings that I have. This one that my husband actually recommended to me is this one right here. So we're going to put that one up. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I think this is a great topic, especially for businesses that are in a period of growth. I'll just read this one shortly. It says, what's holding you back? Your hard work is paying off. You're doing well in your field, but there is something standing between you and the next level of achievement. That something may be one of your own annoying habits, perhaps one small flaw, a behavior you barely even recognize. It's the only thing that's keeping you from where you want to be. It may be that the very characteristic that you believe got you where you are, like the drive to win at all costs, is the one thing that is holding you back. So this book will address the fundamental problems that often come with success and offers ways to attack these problems. So this is going to be our recommended reading. And if we can put that in the chat, what got you here won't get you there. I'm sure you can probably find it on Amazon or something like that. It's by Marshall Goldsmith. And then what I'll do for our next meeting, when we start off, I'll point out some of the points that I learned in this book.
Yeah,
And
that book, I want to give it an amen. Like it is so true. Yes, I've directly been able to speak with Marshall Goldsmith. He's a
oh,
big
you
part of Action
serious?
Coach. Yes,
Oh,
and
that's
that book is
awesome.
powerful. So phenomenal choice.
Well, my husband, he told me I needed to read it. So
Yes.
I'm in a period of growth. So I'm gonna do some self-analyzation based on it. So I'm looking forward. And the link is up. Thank you, Shiron, for posting it. And if you'll copy that link, Cheryl, he put it in the chat and then put it on Facebook as well. We are at our time. Cheryl, is there anything else you need to mention before we log off?
I can't think of anything, but if you have any topics that you'd like the chamber to cover for business in general, please go ahead and submit it to us. We have various channels that we can get information out through: healthcare, our business and entrepreneurship committee, Chamber Connects. So send us topics. You never know how we can get those rolled out to you.
Definitely. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for joining. We are happy that it is no longer snowing. We do know that there are a lot of families that are still dealing with the aftermath of our winter storm. So we definitely keep you guys in our prayers. And then we just want to welcome everyone and tell everyone to have a good and safe weekend. And please keep yourself and your family protected. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ladies, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. See you. See you next time.
We off live.